Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey guys, I'm Nariman Hamden. This is Driven Unscripted Success podcast. We've got an awesome guest on today. We have Bill Ryan. Bill Ryan is an author, a speaker, an entrepreneur, real estate agent, and a developer. Hey Bill, how's it going?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I see you're a fellow Floridian as well.
Yes, I am.
That's
For about,
awesome.
I think going on 7 years.
Oh, wow. And you came down from Chicago?
I actually did 3 years in California, then came here for a career move.
Nice. So why don't you share with us a little bit about what you do and what your business is and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I'll start with the last part of your question. How did I get here? I grew up in the home building business. My parents founded a company in 1958. I joined it full time in 83. Uh, I was back and forth with a couple different roles in the business. Started my first company in 86, but then returned to my family's business in 89 as VP of Sales and Marketing. Grew my family's business from 500 homes a year to 1,500 homes a year in 2 years, mostly through excellence in marketing, leadership in marketing, product design. Those are really the kind of the cornerstones of our growth. We expanded into Minnesota and Florida. We were first production builder in Disney's Celebration community. And then in 2005, we sold the business. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I was in the tech industry from 99 through 2005. I'm a geek. Anyone that knows me well knows that I am a geek. I've actually done programming as well as develop applications. Today I have a real estate business. It's a brand called Epicure Group, which is a realty brand, property management brand, and a home building brand, Homes by Epicure. I have an import business. We import home goods from Italy called Molto Imports. You mentioned I'm an author, so wrote my first book. Man, it might be 2 years ago. I've just published my third book.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And so I'm an author, writer, speaker. I use the Substack platform. I don't know if you're familiar, but I'm publishing there almost every day. And then I have a very aspirational brand called the High Performance Home, which is designed to elevate home. That's our tagline. We're trying to improve the methods and practices behind residential construction. Commercial construction is so much more advanced than residential.
Sure.
Based on, really the need to go higher and taller it motivated manufacturers to come up with better methods and practices and products. But for some reason in the residential industry, we've been slow to improve our methods, practices, and products. Quality. So in my home building career, we built our company on quality. We were the first winner of the National Housing Quality Award that was probably early 90s. Quality was everything to us. We believed and pursued zero defects in deliveries. And I feel that the level of finish and craftsmanship in home building has deteriorated significantly. And a lot of people will blame the lack of skilled labor and the labor shortage that we experience here in Florida.
Sure.
But we know that that's the reality. So why do we keep, it's like doing the same thing, expecting different results, right? That's the definition of insanity. And But we haven't cared enough as an industry to really accept those labor shortages, the level of unskilled labor. And, there still is a lot of skilled labor out there. It's more about, I think, the way we do things as builders, um, and our pricing habits and different things that really contribute to the deterioration in quality, and we need to do better.
Sure, sure. You mentioned that, I agree with you that the residential building is not as advanced as commercial is becoming and has been becoming. I mean, there's a couple of builders that I know that have been doing sustainable living homes. I don't know if you're familiar with those. So they're basically commercial buildings, but as homes, as single family. So
Yes.
they're hurricane resistant, I mean, category 5 hurricane resistant, fire resistant, mold resistant, termite resistant. I mean, they're basically going to outlive us, these homes. They're still going to be around. And I see this engineering and how it solves every solution for any areas that are impacted by anything related to FEMA, hurricane weather, this, that, floods, earthquakes, whatnot. And it's amazing to me that it's not being developed as quickly or as readily as the traditional standards of homes are still being done. Especially with people knowing what these homes are capable of preventing, you know?
Yeah, I take your point. You're absolutely right. There are two sides to this equation. I've talked about the builder side, and I was a little critical of the builder side, and I think the criticism is deserved. But the other side of it, and I have faced this my whole career. I started my first company, as I said, in '86. It was a
Mhm.
home building company. Everything that I built was um, modular construction, was component manufacturing, built in a plant, shipped on site, erected on site.
Sure.
And we had the best uh, insulation values in the walls of the products that we built. The problem was when I tried to get paid for that, the market was unwilling to pay for it, right? So
Right.
buyers are driven by price, and that's understandable. And this was back when, I was selling townhomes for under $100,000, which is unheard of today. But
Right.
so part of the struggle is a little bit of an education problem with
Sure.
buyers, that they need to understand the value and they need to embrace the value.
Right. The
Um,
long-term hold on it,
yeah. So the other framework that I've lived with my whole life. My mom grew up in Ireland. She was raised in Ireland. We would go there as children and visit often. 100-year-old homes were everywhere, right? I mean, there were
Sure.
homes 400 years old because they were built to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
The other problem with our mentality here in the US, because we believe we have abundance of materials, that, knocking down a house and building a new one is no big deal. Uh,
Right. There's no value to certain to I feel like it's a lack of value to the dollar and just being in this just disposable way of life that I'm done with this. Let's tear it
right.
down. Let's create something bigger and better. Oh, this person just did this. I'm gonna, it's constantly trying to run with the Joneses and one up or
Yeah, it's interesting, as a country, we talk a lot about the affordable housing crisis, the housing affordability crisis. And yeah, it exists, but it, and there'll be articles about, well, we have to address this. What do we do to solve the problem? We know what we have to do.
right,
And, throughout the years, I mean, even in the '90s, I fought municipalities on zoning. They wanted larger lots, more expensive housing. Why? Because the people on the board wanted their houses to appreciate. It was
Sure.
self-serving instead of having a broader context to what we need to do as a society, as a country. There isn't any vision around um,
Community.
establishing community, right? Yeah, I used
Right.
to make this argument to
Yeah.
municipalities quite a bit that if you have a ladder of values in a community, you can have, a young couple buy a house and then they can move up into another level house and stay in the same school district and keep moving up.
Sure.
A lot of our newer communities, our newer suburbs, let's call
Mm-hmm.
them, they're very homogenous. There isn't a ladder of values for people to move up within the community. Now,
No.
today, there's regret around that. There is some uh, reuse of properties. There are examples throughout the country that are really terrific examples, um, but it's more of a reaction instead of uh, having a vision for how to build community.
Sure. And I feel like today it's more of like a segregation of the classes.
Correct.
Oh. And one community could be just as beautiful as the other community, but here's the price range, and they segregate it to only person that makes this much and has this class stature can be in this community. And they don't need to say it, but that's what everything screams about it,
Yeah,
which
you're
is,
right.
it's
You know,
sad.
we've kind of come around and understood that we need to do something about workforce housing, right? That, the people, our our teachers, our first responders,
Sure.
the people in hospitality and the food business can't even afford to live in the towns in which they work.
Right.
And so
Absolutely.
now there's a push to create this workforce housing. I call it the missing middle, right? When we think about affordability, so many of us think about providing housing for low income, and that's important.
Sure.
It's a completely different dynamic. We really need to focus more on our workforce, young families. Here
Mm-hmm.
where I live in the Jupiter area, entry-level housing, I mean, you can find some housing under 500,000, but really 500 to 600,000 is entry-level housing here in Jupiter.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
California is worse.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's the same here in Naples, you
yeah,
know? And it's the cost of living is just getting more expensive and more expensive, and I don't understand over what and for what, it's just too much. But, let me ask you a few other questions. When you think back, are there any moments that you'd say really changed the game in your career and heading more towards this direction than going into being an author and whatnot?
oh gosh. Yeah,
Oh, boy.
well, you can tell by the color of my hair that
Yeah.
I've been around for a while. I've had I'm still as active today as I've ever been. I've contemporaries of mine that are retiring. They love retirement. I am not. I never thought I was the retiring kind. So years ago, it really in the late 90s, um, I was doing quite a lot of writing, but I couldn't figure out really, how to get to a finished product. But it was always something that I aspired to. And then a few years ago, um, so I'm a Compass agent here in Florida, and joined a group called the 6 a.m.ers in Compass. In fact, I was online with some of that group this morning. Uh, Great group of people that they formed during COVID just as a way to try to stay sharp and stay focused because so many people, working from home, it was difficult, right?
Sure.
And in the real estate market, for a while there, we were shut down and then, our business went crazy. But anyway, um, 6 a.m.ers are all about getting 1% better every day. And
Good.
I've always been a student of personal development, achievement, leadership. And one morning while I was on with the group, just it kind of clicked what I need to write about, what the book needs to be. I'd written some novels, some screenplays, and other things, but um, I finally had a vision that was pretty easy for me to act on. The
Hmm.
book is part memoir, um, and then part kind of self-development and leadership. So that was something I've always wanted to do. Now I've always been in a leadership position in whatever role I had
Sure.
in the different businesses that I either led or built. Um, so now I'm really focused on helping. I say helping good people achieve their goals, and when I say good people, what I mean is if you're looking for someone to help you make a ton of money, I mean, I can help you because I've been there and I've done that, but I really want I really want to make the world a better place. And I'm old enough that I can have that kind of a focus and kind of the statesman phase of my life. But
Sure.
I think I think things have gotten a little out of whack. Let me put it politically
You think?
neutral. But we lack vision, we lack leadership as a country, I think, um, and so I'm doing my part to try to create some, uh, try to make a difference, but create some leadership in an industry that I have always loved. That's been really good to me, um,
Sure.
and I know we can do better. And I hate to generalize because there's a lot of great work being done throughout the residential construction industry. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's
Hmm.
some incredible uh, innovation and creativeness that's happening. But in general, and I see it pretty broadly here in Florida, you know, we can do better. That's kind of
Sure.
the way I like to focus it.
Sure, and especially with, just the amount of hurricanes and natural disasters that are happening more and more each year, it's why not evolve to better construction for
Right.
single family homes? And I get it. It's sometimes it's hard to learn something new, or you just don't want to learn it. You don't want to go through the process of doing it because you're already comfortable doing it this way, and then you're making a lot of money just continuing the same form of construction. And if, and perhaps, you get into these commercial style single family homes that are never going to be destroyed or have any issues. And then they're not making as much money as they used to because now these people it's not as easily to tear a house down like that and rebuild, you
Yeah.
know? So I think money is obviously the biggest factor there on all sides and more so on the building side. If builders introduce this new concept of engineering, that it may affect their pocketbook.
I love the direction of your thoughts. And so the idea for the high performance home really started 2 years ago. It was derivative of this import business that I have. I work with Italian manufacturers who are just incredible craftsmen. They use some of the latest engineering and machinery and all that stuff, but they still have the mind of a craftsman.
Sure.
And I admire that. And it was a little bit of I don't know if it was a wake up call, but it really highlighted where we diverged in the US. Now, over the last 2 years, as I've been building this brand and the strategy behind it, I have learned to I've kind of softened a little bit. In other words, I'm less, I don't want to focus on the criticism of an industry.
Sure.
I want to partner with people who can help this brand help an industry. So I think that, one of the things that we focus on, we have a concept called the trade contractor integration, where we are in the third quarter, we're going to be selling a vanity product. And think of a shopping cart. You go online to the high performance home, you select the vanity you want, you click submit. We don't just ship you a vanity, we install the vanity for you. So if you're a homeowner who wants to do a bathroom remodel, you can just
Sure,
go to our website, select what you want, hit submit. We come in and do it for you. And that requires partnership with trade contractors and suppliers to make that vision a reality.
sure,
Um, so we want to, and one of the things that this is futuristic for us, but we want to change the way plumbing is connected to vanities. So we want to have more of a plug and play system. Now, there are some manufactured housing companies that have come up with their own methodology to do that. One of the challenges is to get through the permitting and zoning hurdles. That's not insignificant. Again, I was involved with manufactured housing back in the late 80s. And we could only go so far in the plant because we couldn't ship a closed wall to the job site because the inspector needed to see how we connected things. Now, why is that? It's because a lot of people would cut corners, right? So we
sure,
wanted to make sure we didn't cut corners. If we had integrity in the system and the belief that we could do it right the first time and not cut corners, in fact, deliver an elevated product
sure,
to the job site, those hurdles would go away and we actually could deliver much greater value to our homeowners. I mean, think about it. Computers, again, I'm an old guy and I'm a geek. So I started using computers in the early 80s. In fact, when
right.
I was in college, I used the Fortran system, which you probably don't even know about. We had to punch cards, and
Hmm.
it would
No,
take like
don't know that one.
100 cards to run in a simple algebra iteration. Anyway,
Wow.
computers have come so far, as we all know. Apple has revolutionized the laptop, putting so much productivity and production and power into a small footprint. But the price of that laptop hasn't changed that significantly. And yet housing continues to go up in price.
Sure.
Functionality does not increase. Value largely does not increase.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there's no reason why we can't approach housing with a different mindset to deliver greater value, not reduce the profitability to the providers of that product. Profitability can be the same or even greater. I mean, look at the
Sure.
profitability of Apple. Apple, is
Yeah.
incredibly profitable. Uh, Elon Musk, I mean, what he's done with Tesla, that out of
Yeah. Yeah.
nowhere, he's a leading manufacturer of automobiles. Uh, and even though he got criticized in the first quarter for his reduction in profitability, the company still made $400 million in profit.
Right.
I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just read an article, I think this morning it was about he's starting the driverless taxi service in Austin with 10 to 12 cars down there to
Yep.
test them out and see, trial and error, fix this or that malfunctions. But it's insane. By the end of June, that's supposed to be happening.
Yeah. That's
I
right.
mean, it's like I feel in Texas in itself is got Stargate being built in Abilene there. So I mean, the opportunity that's going to be coming to Texas with employment and just housing market, apartment buildings being built. I mean, all sorts of things with just with that AI infrastructure. And it's just, I feel like technology is like really becoming like lightning speed, advancement now.
Yeah. And
As
we've seen it a number of times, right? Again,
Yeah.
I'm not sure your age, but the dot-com era,
Oh,
incredible
yeah.
for transformation.
Hmm.
Um, Technology continues to advance, but you're right, the AI, the AI phase that we're in right
And
now
I mean, it's on
is crazy.
steroids.
It
It is
is.
on
It,
steroids. I mean, you
and I'm
can't
sure
keep
you use
up.
it every day. I use
Oh,
it every day.
yeah. I mean,
I'll share a quick real estate agent. I know you're an agent as well.
yes.
Um, and I don't know if you use AI to write
Mm,
your
for
listings
everything,
at all, but
everything.
so I had a very difficult listing, and I had to write the property description, and I wanted to really grab as much content as I could. So I amassed this content from different sources, dumped it all into AI, which reorganizes it, right? Compresses it. The writing style is incredible. I mean, I've been using it as an editor, so it knows my voice.
Hmm.
Um, but then I took an old listing from a similar property as a PDF, dumped it into AI,
Yeah.
and told it pull out all of the key property descriptions. I mean, like I could have done that. Would have taken me what 2, 3, 4 hours.
Right.
It did it in a minute.
Yeah. Seconds. You know what I did yesterday? So I'm looking at buying this house and kind of wondering, so I of course I could have gone into MLS and did all the research, find the comparables, what the difference is, which would have taken a couple of hours, even half a day in between things.
Yeah.
And threw in the address into Chat GPT, said come up with comparables, couple key things, words that I put in there. Within a minute, it pulled up the four comparables, gave me the breakdown of what is the difference between each one. Then I asked it another question. Will tell me what the listing price was, what the sold price was, dates that it was sold, generated that. I mean, insane. I mean, it
You
just
know,
goes on the web, pulls everything out. So I also use it now for if I'm looking for certain property owners, anything like that, throw it in Chat GPT. If I have a handful of groceries in the fridge and I don't know what to make out of them, which I'm typically good with creating something out of nothing. And there's times I'm like, oh, this is a tough one, black olives and onion and this. Throw it in there, it comes up with 5 recipes. I
oh, I
mean,
love that. I haven't thought of that one. I do
good one.
use chat for recipes. Yeah, over the last week, I think I've asked it for 3 different recipes for products that, I was in Chicago over the weekend, so I wanted to get the recipe for some of the products that I love there.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to put a pin in your comments about the real estate research because I think there's a point to be made there. There's so many people say, oh, they're afraid of AI, right? It's going to replace us all. But what's key in your story, in my opinion, is your acumen in being able to drive AI. Not
Yes.
everybody could get the results that you get. You knew when you knew what you wanted to input. When you saw
Mm-hmm.
the output, you knew how to refine it. That's your value.
Yeah.
And sure,
Sure.
AI absolutely makes us more productive, but without our experience, our vision, um, our own personal leadership, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? You have to know how to use that output, and you clearly, have an acumen to drive it in a specific way. Helps your business, but also elevates your business.
All right, let's keep going.
Don't you hate
Um,
when that happens?
I know, just like just going to like just a statue for a minute there. So let me ask you this, leading a team has its challenges. What's your leadership style? And can you give us an example of how it helped you through a tough spot?
Yeah, it helps me all the time. My leadership style is collaboration. There's a book which I'm writing. Thought it was going to be my next book, but that got preempted by, actually, my fourth book is at the Illustrator right now. But when I was young, I learned about the mastermind principle. And
Mm-hmm.
that principle is you bring two minds together, you create a third mind. This new book that will probably come out early next year is the fourth mind. So for me, I was always very good at collaborating with people, and I talk about it in my Fix Your Why book, Elevating the Creative. Um, I learned to get the most out of the people that I collaborate with. You have to give them respect. You have to admire their creativity, their passion for whatever it is they're doing. And then I like to sit at a round table like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, where
Sure.
there is no hierarchy at that table. We're all
Sure.
equal participants in the process. And together, if we collaborate without ego, we'll create that fourth mind, which is independent of all of us sitting around the table, but it's a hybrid. It's very much like artificial intelligence, really. It's to bring the best thoughts of the people you surround yourself with, but having everyone committed to not having my idea, but the idea get presented.
Sure. Yeah, by
And
hearing each other's thoughts of, the positive, the positives and the negatives of
yeah,
the situation and how to solve that problem, you
I
know?
had a colleague of mine years ago say, why do you always have to be right? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I've had very few first generation ideas. By that, I mean an idea I came up with. I said, you know me, I'm always collaborating with a group. He said, yeah, but it's your idea that we implement. I said, you're wrong. It's not my idea. I didn't think of it. But I'll tell you
Right.
this, when I see that idea, and I literally would see it back in the day, it would pop up, it would present itself. I said, then I'm immovable. When I know I've come up with something that no one at the table could come up with on their own,
Yeah.
and these are industry leaders, like I worked with the best designers, architects, ad reps, that was something worth embracing. And again, it's a form of innovation, right? When you come up with something that no one else thought of,
Sure. It's innovative.
that's that's what always got me excited. And
Yeah.
so as a leader, it was again, I try to lift everybody that I collaborate with.
Sure.
Um, but I
Encourage.
know the focus. I know the end game. The end game is that innovative idea. And then once I see it, then I get pretty immovable.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I mean, that's how you encourage your team with, thinking outside the box and
I
collaborating
hope so.
together. So it all ties in together. Absolutely. So what's a day in your life look like? How do you juggle work and play?
That is a great question. Um, I think rest and play are very important. I'm lucky because I can sleep anywhere. The play part, it's important to me that I stay active, I stay fit. Um, and the great thing for me every day is I get to do what I love. I mean, I have multiple brands that I'm building, but they're all passion projects of mine. I mean, there are days when you're in the weeds and it's not as fun as other days, but usually every day I spend a block of time writing, which is my innovation and inspiration time. So I always get lifted at some point in my day, and
Sure.
I'm always collaborating. I love collaborating with people, whether they're creatives, trade contractors, team members, whatever. Um, I love creating. So anytime I have that opportunity, I'm pretty pumped up.
That's awesome. So has there been a book, a podcast, or someone that's really changed your outlook or approach?
Well, again, uh, in full disclosure of my age. So back in the day, I would listen to audio tapes.
I
And
remember the audio tapes.
yeah, Nightingale Conant was a Chicago company. They produced a lot of them. Wayne Dyer was a huge inspiration when I was in my early 20s. Um, Recently, there are two podcasts that really kind of are part of my diet, if you will. One is Sam Harris. I think the guy is just uh, a very smart guy, and he goes into issues that I think are important and critical. The other is B1M. Have you heard of them?
Now I'm writing them down. B1M.
I think B1M is also tagged the best construction podcast. It's a
Oh,
guy
great.
that's based in the UK, but they do videos of incredible construction projects, usually commercial, high-end commercial, um, highly informative, very entertaining. They're really great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check those out. So, what's on the horizon for you? Any big goals or projects you're excited about in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, two very key projects for me. One is for my import business. We're actually remodeling my own kitchen because it's going to become a showroom. And I've built over 10,000 homes in my career.
That's
I've built
impressive.
entry level all the way up to high-end custom. I've seen a lot of kitchens. This kitchen that we're installing here is one of the most beautiful kitchens I've ever been a part of. So that's exciting. I think that really is going to launch our import brand. The other is, I mentioned it, the high performance home. Our redesigned website's going to come out in a couple weeks. And as I mentioned in the third quarter, our vanity project is going to launch. So we're going to start to do some e-commerce on the site. And then we also have a new modular closet system,
Hmm.
which from everything I know, I've never seen anybody do it the way we're going to do it. Um, I don't know why someone hasn't thought about it sooner, but very excited about that product and what that means for my brand. The high performance home brand has the ability to be a hugely significant brand. And right now we're positioning for our first institutional capital raise. And, it'll be probably a 10 to $20 million capital raise, which, allows us to really execute on our mission. So
That's
that's,
fantastic. Yeah, I look forward to
yeah,
hearing more about
it's
that.
really exciting.
Yeah,
I kind of pinch myself every day, but
that's awesome. That's
it's happening.
exciting. Yeah, I look forward to hearing more about that in the future and see where you're at and what the next step is with that. That sounds really exciting. So, you know, so what are some, I'll just get right to it. What are some passive besides real estate or what kind of real estate do you like investing in for passive income?
Great question. I've had different strategies through the years. Maybe because of my geek side, I've done a lot of investing on my own. Um, I'm also a numbers guy, which is kind of strange. Math has always been a skill, but uh, growing my family's business, product design was really the key to the growth. So as they say, I use both sides of my brain. But right now, um, I'm pretty conservative in my investment strategy. All of my capital deployment right now is going into the brands that I'm developing. So
Sure.
that's really, if I had to answer the question, what are you investing in today? I'm investing in me, um, and these brands that I'm building. And in 2 or 3 years, when we have had some equity events in these brands, then I would look to maybe have a more diverse investment strategy.
Sure, sure. That makes sense. I mean, you've got big projects coming up and I mean, raising capital for the the high-end brand that you're gonna end up bringing to market's pretty consuming in itself, I'd say.
It has
So
been. Yeah.
that's
And
exciting though.
one of the things we're hoping to launch next year at the high performance home is a concept house where we build it from scratch and really put all the brain power into a single house, which hopefully will be, a benchmark for the industry.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I had,
absolutely.
you have a great, did my research and watched a number of your podcast episodes. You have a great brand. I don't know how
Appreciate
you
it.
curate all your guests, but yeah, it, there's real value there.
Appreciate it. I really do. I enjoy it and enjoy every guest that comes on here. I've met some interesting guests and just it's like you said, masterminding and collaborating and networking, and it's been awesome. So I appreciate that. So if anyone wanted to connect with you, how do they get a hold of you? How do they find your books? How do they learn more about your massive project that you're looking to raise capital for?
Yeah, best way to find me is probably Substack because I'm most active there, but fixyourwhy.com, multoimports.com, and epicurefinehomes.com. I mean, those are uh, probably my most visible brands right now, and more to come.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciated it. And thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.